Hey Guru Nation, so I know some of you guys don't have time, so here's the highlight reel from the interview with Travis Mickle, the CEO of KemPharm. Just a few things I want to mention. This is thanks to, um, big thanks to Wayne D1 from StockTwits. So he basically put a screenshot of the highlights. I'm going to put it here for you guys to see. So here's some of the highlights, and then you'll see the highlight reel. Heard that once COVID gets normal, child psychiatrist will adopt it, referring to Astaris. Travis' personal user experience, this is great, he says. This is better than anything in the past, including Vyvanse. COVID in the launch focused states, Texas and Florida, along with some other issue, happened. I guess he's referring to the loss of life of the key executive responsible for the launch at Corium, which slowed down the launch. Corium is planning for success during the slow phase. Script number is trending up. Launch is going as planned. Provider reviews on their utilization is very positive. Increased appetite is the most important feedback from patients, which will be the main value driver in the future. Worked early. The data that physicians sees in red is being demonstrated by their patients. Only negativity is the payer reimbursement and difficulty in prescribing as expected. Shelf is a tool and may be needed for mergers and acquisitions either one way or another. It is not in the plan now, so no dilution in the near future. We want to be big boy one day, says Travis. SDX phase 1 PK population, well experienced abusers but not addicts. Very high dose abuse liability study. Getting some good data to release fourth quarter of 2021. SDX phase 1, two trial sites, first site amphetaminic and methylphenidate abusers, second site cocaine and methamphetamine abusers. Quick and easy trial for the idiopathic hyposomnia, which he said it's like gonna be one of the ones they focus on. SDX less abusable, only Schedule 4 methylphenidate can be applied to IH, daytime sleepiness in PD and AD patients, unmet needs, and many other opportunities. With all the great resources like Adam Smith with Alzheimer's expertise and Andy Barrett with narcolepsy expertise, it has been a nice transition from ADHD to all kinds of CNS diseases. They say Alzheimer's is definitely on the table. You should watch the full interview for that to get your take on it. I don't think Alzheimer's on the table, but some people saying it could be. Final strategy will be announced once board approves. The big reveal will be anytime. FDA is very encouraged by the SDX KP879 data. No more data for fast track breakthrough designation. Expect a designation before quarter 1 22 and after quarter 4 phase 1 data release. Very high dose of SDX is well tolerated, encouraged by many interests from big pharma. The nice consequences of success of Astarix product specific KP879 and 1077, which is the idiopathic hyposomnia interests. Selling certain technologies not off the table, but he's going, seems like he wants to go the route of the big boys. Neurocrine kept coming up a lot, which is a went from a sub $1 billion to about a $9 billion valuation in a matter of years. He's following that model. So yeah, if you want to watch the whole thing, watch the whole thing. But here's the highlight reel, and I'll catch y'all later. Let me know what you think. We're here talking with Travis Mickle, CEO of KemPharm, KMPH. Has COVID like slowed down the rollout? Like, televisits. I know because I work with doctors too, and they're trying to do a lot of their visits remotely now as well. So how's that been a challenge if it has been?
Well, we've heard from Corium that they've had their challenges. I mean, a lot of the focus has been in states like Texas and Florida, which were the epicenters for the Delta variant and a lot of the issues that happened alongside that. But what's nice is, as you're doing this rollout, you're also learning how to best, get into, to meet with physicians, to get their time outside of the office, which is kind of a new strategy. And I think very clever. I know other companies have implemented something similar, but, I believe Corium's doing a good job of really planning for success as opposed to worrying about what's going on this very second.
Mm-hmm. And as far as Corium is concerned, like one of the questions I kept getting from the community is, do they have some kind of metrics that you guys follow when it comes to, like, do you have milestone expectations and how they perform versus what your expectations are?
In the early days, no. I mean, that's first 6 months, every payer is going to block this. You're going to have some high deductible plans that'll cover it, but that'll change at the beginning of the year, right when folks have a deductible again. So this first few months will always be very low script volume. I think we've seen 60 or 70 a week, but it's trending up. What we want to see is adoption, continued use. Doctors continue to write scripts and good clinical feedback. We want to hear doctors say, "Hey, this is working for my patients. I want to give it to more patients." It's not, when they tell us it's not in the pharmacy or I'm having formulary issues, that's a good sign. That means, we can fix those things, but the doctor really wants to have it in there and use it for his patients. So that's everything that I have heard that I can pass along because it's, I think it's fairly standard, but at the same time, it's very encouraging.
Yeah, this is actually a topic that comes up. I wish we would have had Dr. Al Jazairli, our oncologist, on here, because when we cover biotechs, we're always talking about, okay, when the drug's approved, doctors want to prescribe it. Insurance companies going to block it until they figure out what this is. But the doctors they get a form. I think it's like authorization form or something. The staff has to fill it out. Most offices have full-time people doing this, as long as they're providing rationale why they're using this over the others. So have you seen that? Like, are you hearing feedback from doctors about this kind of stuff?
Actually, that's not terribly problematic. It's usually when a patient encounters difficulty, like my plan doesn't cover any of it. I have to pay $100. Those sort of issues. Prior authorizations, as you mentioned, are ADHD is a lifelong diagnosis. So every insurer knows, well, if I can stop one or two of these, that's going to save me some money. And so they put in as many blocks for every medication. Corium knew that going in. Everybody who launches in the last 20 years has known that, it's going to get some resistance. But, docs are used to this for every new patient.
So far, the launch compared to your expectations, how do you feel about it?
I think it's going as planned. I mean, I'm just passing along what Corium's telling us. I've seen some good feedback. WebMD has provided some user reviews. Folks that have had scripts provided reviews on their utilization, and it's very positive. I think surprisingly, some of the feedback is around weight loss and appetite, which we knew in our clinical studies we were seeing kind of an improvement there. But hearing it from patients where, I wasn't eating before or Johnny wasn't eating before, and now they don't have a problem, that's a big deal because that's the number one issue with all of these stimulant medications. And that could be a real driver here in the future. What some of the feedback has been that it does work throughout the day. It works well. Parents, it's a caregiver setting in one instance, but there's feedback that it worked early, and that's positive because that's what we saw in our clinical studies. So there's no pushback from the clinical perspective, right? The data that physicians read and see is actually being demonstrated in their patients. So they're being very positive. I think the only negativity is what we always expected and what we see with payers, reimbursement, and the difficulty in prescribing.
We've witnessed recently the percentage of institutional ownership rise steadily. I think we're at close to 30%, if not more, institutional investor. How do you view this? Is it positive? And how important is that for continued growth in all the other things we're going to discuss now, namely SDX?
It is important. It's an important component to any healthcare institution. Honestly, every company in our stage, any company that wants to be the next big, I'd say Pfizer, but Neurocrine and Biohaven, these $9-8 billion companies. I mean, those are gold, right? We want to be a big boy someday, and so we need good healthcare institutions behind us that are going to buy and keep their stock. They're not going to, not a hedge fund that's going to hedge against it with shorts and all sorts of, fun stuff. They're going to be holders, and then they're going to, like our previous holder, Deerfield, be very strategic. They brought us opportunities, they brought us deals, they brought us ideas, and they did market research. And a lot of these groups will do that. And then also, it's kind of a gang, right? Once you get one or two more, and they just kind of pile in, and it's self-fulfilling for prophecy. They'll support the stock when it's down. They'll sing the praises when it's up, and that helps everybody in that case.
Yeah. So Ken, I guess we can talk about SUD, substance use disorder, stimulant disorder. You guys have phase 1. You're waiting on data from that, or do you have the data for this, or are you waiting on it still?
We've been getting little pieces here and there. It's so the study itself is just a phase 1 PK study where we have some PD readings on, how do you feel? How do you feel about abuse? Is it make you high? Does it not? The standard parameters that you look for abuse liability, but also it tells you a little bit of how the product is making them feel at these doses. Now, these are doses above what we've studied before. So 240 milligrams was the top dose in our abuse studies. We started there, and we're going up to 600 milligrams. So we have little pieces along the way, but we don't have the full picture. So this population, these are stimulant addicted subjects. They know what they're doing as far as stimulant addiction, and they're not the most reliable subjects in the planet. You'll get 2 or 3 that show up, and then the next time they don't, and then they never call back or follow up. It's actually been a nightmare, but we're getting some good data. Fourth quarter is when we plan to announce everything.
Okay.
But in the interim, we are building the case for how this is going to be developed into a product.
First of all, is this proof of concept study, is it on, I think we discussed last time, is it healthy volunteers, or it's actually on the indication for patients?
Because it required them to be, fairly sophisticated with stimulant use. We had to go with people that were not quite addicts, but well-experienced stimulant abusers.
Wow.
And so it's not the intended population where you're trying to take addicts and wean them off into something else. This is the population that at least starts that way. And so that's one of the difficulties we have with these studies.
Substance use disorder or stimulant use disorder, that might be the more challenging one. And there's a lot of questions around that, particularly one, this is why I'm bringing it up now, because it's most related to this one. You previously said that you would look for a partner as soon as the data would be in. So I'm assuming you're going to try to license it, unlike Astaris, because it's specifically way more challenging to do a study like this for a small cap biotech. And like you suggested earlier, there's lower hanging fruit, maybe, rare disease, like you were saying, or other things. So is there anything that you would like to say about this, like for the investors who are a little bit concerned about what's going on with this particular indication first?
Well, so what's interesting here is the dynamic between our license agreement with Gurnett Point Capital, which is referred to in the public domain as ComAv. Also, they assigned the commercialization rights to Corium. It's all the same thing to me. I just say GPC really is the group here we have a license with. They have a right of first negotiation after we complete this first study. So we don't have to wait till phase 2 or phase 3. We put together a data package of this, phase 1 study. They get 150 days. All of this is public. It's all out there about the agreement to evaluate it and decide if they want to do a license. And along the way, we'll negotiate economics, we'll negotiate terms, and then eventually, we'll reach an agreement during that time period, I would assume. And, that's what I was referring to about the license. They're obviously going to have some interest. This is CNS related. They got a CNS sales company that they're building. But at the same time, I can't guarantee they're going to do anything. That's up to them and how much
Right.
they want to pay, whether it's enough for us to want to move forward with or not. All of those things are still TBD.
With regards to KP879, is there any status on FDA special designation?
No status to report at this point. The FDA wants more data before they make any assessment on fast track breakthrough. But they're very encouraged by the IND. Really had very few questions. Really wanted to make sure that the protocol was safe and that we were monitoring these subjects that we're giving very very high doses of methylphenidate prodrug to. But everything's gone well, and so I don't see any issues there.
Is everything on the table, or are you going to do this like on your own? For example, like an activated technology. Would you ever consider like selling that, but just that? Or are you like committed to just going at it on your own, like long term, very long term?
So I mean, that's a great question, and that goes back to I'm sure there's a few guys that are still around from the 15 years ago when we started this whole thing. I am, so that works out. But yeah, everything's always on the table. I mean, this is a business first and foremost. I have friends here I've worked with for a long time, but they also understand this is has value in pieces too. So whether it's divestment or strategic alignment or taking two parts and making it one, external company or technology we look at everything and consider all the options. And I think that's what we've been doing over the last few months. That's where we want to be. Is here's our plan. Now it doesn't mean there won't be changes to that over time, but we want to get to the point where hey, look, there's an actionable plan, and this is our goal: is to create as much value as quickly as possible. I mean, when I started it, my goal was to sell the whole thing as soon as possible. But it's now the Iowa story. If you build it, they will come. And I'm an
Yeah.
Iowa boy, so we're gonna have to make them really want to pay a lot of money for it before they get a
I
hold
like
of it.
that. We're wrapping up. Thank you, Travis, for answering these somewhat tough questions. We try to make it easier. um, we've been unrelated to KMPH, believe it or not. We were Chris, myself, Dr. Al. We were looking at Aquestive Therapeutics. But we did a few videos. I think we even had the CEO on. I can't remember. I have to look back and see. But I was surprised to find there's like a history between KMP. I mean, they're getting like 10% royalty. Like, what's going on with that? Is that like something that is just gonna maintain itself, or are you guys thinking of doing something about that? And then can you just share why that even occurred?
Yeah, sure. Actually, this goes way back to the genesis of KemPharm, when Aquestive was actually Monosol RX. So they were, different name, kind of a similar business model at that point, making these thin strips, thin films for rapid dissolving oral delivery. When we had our first candidate, it was also an ADHD candidate, kind of a highly water soluble form of Vyvanse, new prodrug. And we approached them and said, we want to put this in a film. We think this would be a great approach. So we worked together. We got into an agreement where we co-developed this. And we eventually wanted to include SDX in that. We wanted, a methylphenidate. So, there was a lot of work and tech transfer that went in. They earned a royalty on, any of that ADHD work. We sold the first one off to Shire. So, that one, they got a percent of that as well. But, that's something that's in place. Now, as far as like deciding whether or not we're going to buy the royalty, it's kind of up to both Aquestive and KemPharm. I don't know if they're interested. We'll have to ask.
Yeah, they got a lot going on too. I mean, I was just surprised. Like, okay, I've been covering this company and I see that they have a history. That's kind of cool. And thank you so much for answering all the questions. Keep coming back like once a quarter. You got to do your quarterly earnings and all that, but let's make it like an informal, just get to know the CEO kind of thing every quarter.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. I really appreciate you guys do a good job, moderating the questions. I know a lot of them are hard to kind of piece together and get out what it can be answered, get the information that people want to hear.
Hey, they're interested, so that's good.
Yeah,
At the end of the day,
it
that's
is.
good. We're YouTubers. We'll take good and bad comments. Helps the algorithm. Stock price, no different. We just want interest in it. Thank you guys very much, and stay tuned to my reaction video on my channel for this. I'll do highlights for the newbies, get you guys interested. Get some new people going down the rabbit hole of KMPH. But this one was special for all you nerds out there. So thank you very much. Bye bye.